Hello, snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host, Avran LeFeber, and this is Top 5s, the only weekly Top 5 show in snowboarding that you tune into because you have a powder addiction, a white powder addiction. That's right. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the top 5 all-around powder boards for 2024-2025. Keep your nose up. Number 5, the Libtech MC Wayfinder, or if you're TC, the Mick Wayfinder. I like the name Mick Wayfinder better. The big thing with this board is the shape coupled with the camber profile. So when you load up the camber, it elevates that nose, and then with the pointiness of it, it helps funnel that snow back out to the side. It's very easy to stay centered or slightly back without having to be fully in the back seat to get this to float. Now, you can go into the back seat completely, and it's going to just sort of plane along like a boat, funneling everything out. Now, when you get into a groomer to cut across from one side of the resort to the other, you got magnet traction. That's gonna help you grip and lock in. It's very easy to ankle steer this board in tight trees as well, so you don't have to worry about it. By and large, it's a very well-balanced resort powder board, which is kind of what we were going for with this list, so that we could find a deck for the guys that get out there on a Saturday, and it might be good for an hour, and then it might be choppy. The only thing that I would say that this board isn't good at is if it starts to get really wet and heavy and freeze up, it can get bucked around just a little bit. Number 4, the Nitro Slash. Doesn't have the most tail, but it's got a ton of camber, so it still pops, which allows you to porpoise through the snow. You also have a slight 3D shaping in the nose that helps funnel it out. It's also very, very wide. So those of you guys with bigger feet, you can do this. Those of you guys with regular or smaller feet, still gonna help float. It is a little bit torsionally stiff, so it takes a little more effort to steer it when you get into tight trees. Be aware of that. You're going to kind of be a little more back seat on it and kind of just flicking your hip forward or backwards to swizzle hip around everything. But you get it into wide open snow, you don't have to worry about it. And even though it's got camber, I didn't experience any real leg burn with it. It's very easy to sit on that back foot and keep the nose up and just plane forward. Basically, if you know what you're doing, you're going to have a good time with this thing. Number 3, the K2 Excavator. Obviously, we're going for well-rounded resort powder boards, and this is a quintessential one in my opinion. It holds an edge well when you get on a groomer to cut from one side of the resort to the other to get to your stashes, but the second you hit that pow, the shape, the camber profile, the flex, they all work in conjunction to keep you on top of that snow. It's very nimble in the trees, it's solid in wide open snow, and you can pow butter on that nose with relative ease. Pop that 180, land on it, it's gonna hold, then you're gonna be able to press right into where that rocker section is and spring back out, do another 180, and go on your way. Like I said, this is a very well-balanced resort powder board, and that's what we were going for with this list. And it really just sticks out that this is a board I can put most people on, and they're never gonna have to worry about it. We're about halfway through this video, I think. I don't really know where Ben is editing me into, but you know what you haven't done? You haven't gone down and clicked the thumbs up. You know you need to. Feed that algorithm so more people can see this and buy really good snowboard equipment instead of listening to idiots. Also, while you're down there, subscribe. Click that bell, get the notifications. That way you don't miss any of the programming we've got coming out for you. Number 2, the Jones Hovercraft 2.0. This is the upgraded Hovercraft. I rode it last year, TC rode it this year. It's great. It's heavier though. That's the one thing you gotta understand. It's got recycled material in it. With it being heavier, it's a little bit faster, but when you hit crustier snow, it busts right through with ease. It also creates a slightly more damp ride. You do have those little powder channels in the tail that break up that surface tension, so when you're on the back seat, it doesn't stick if you get into wetter snow. You have a little bit of 3D shaping in the nose, so that helps with the roll edge to edge as well as breaking up that snow so it funnels out. And if you do get on a groomer, you got serrated edges. It's gonna dig in and carve well. Like I said, it's heavier. This is probably the heaviest board on the list. So some of you guys that are weight weenies or cry about having a board dangling from your leg on the chairlift, you either need to stop skipping a leg day, eat more muscle cheese, or maybe get a different board. Honorable mentions, all great options, but just barely didn't crack the top 5 of this list. The Libtech Orca, because it's a POW board. That's what it is. TC rode it on a 2-foot POW day and was like, this is a really good POW board. All these people that think you need it for everything else are wrong, but for a POW day, it's very approachable. The torsional flex is easy to use. It floats well. It's very much like a beginner's My First POW board. That's why we're putting it on this list. It's an approachable everyman POW board. The Rossigol Slashimi. It replaces the sashimi, so it's not as tapered and not as directional. You got a little more upkick in that tail. That'll help you for when you get into a line where you realize you can't go that way or that way and you've got to go back the way you came, so you're riding a little switch. I see you people. You're slightly falling, leafing in the trees. It's a little steep, you're a little scared. This won't hook up. You can ride it a little bit backwards. It does have a very approachable flex, especially from the center back through the tail. This will allow that nose to get up, and with that pointy shape and the way it's designed, it floats well. Basically, this is a men's after hours, which I've been saying that Rossigol needed. Did they have to get rid of the sashimi? No, you should have left that in the line too. That way you'd have the more directional and the more twinish powder boards. But because you got rid of the sashimi, here's the slashimi sitting in the honorable mentions. Rossigol, get your shit together. And the final honorable mention is the Endeavor Maverick. Basically a non-swallowtail version of the archetype. Means you can ride it switch a little bit easier. It isn't the stiffest board out there. It's going to have a lot of torsional flex, which will really help you when you get on your back foot if you need to twist the board and kind of slash a turn or get really quick and nimble in tight trees. Anyways, these are all honorable mentions, just didn't crack the top 5 of our list. Like what we're doing over here? Want to support us further? Swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. And the #1 POW board for 2025 is the Wired Arc. This is possibly the most versatile snowboard I was on for 2025. Great in POW, great in a groomer, just great all the way around. I got this in a 12-inch day that was a little bit heavier, did not sink, stayed on top, minimal leg burn, that tail sunk exceptionally well. When I get on a groomer, I could rip a carve. If I wanted to go hit the park, I could. This is just an all-around awesome board. Plus, super wide. If you look at the specs on this thing, you big-footed behemoths are not going to have a problem with this deck. I think the 151 is like a 26.1 at the waist, and I rode this in a 57. I couldn't sink it, and for a heavy spring day, that's amazing. Also, urethane sidewalls, they help dampen so you don't get that kinetic energy. It's got a slightly milled core profiling in the middle. That helps keep that nose up, and then when you look at the actual shape of this and the tip kick and everything, it's designed for POW float. I can't stress enough how great this board is and how good the stuff Wired is doing right now. If you've been sleeping on this small brand, you need to go check it out. All right, this has been our all-around powder boards of 2025. If you haven't seen the reviews of any of these decks, you need to go watch one now.